stuffing and tigers and bears. Oh my! Welcome to episode 130 of From the Middle. We are three middle-class guys living in the middle chapters of America. Suck a duck. Three middle-class guys in the middle of America. Why am I forgetting it?
I don't know.
I never forget it.
You wrote the thing.
Three middle-class guys in the middle of America in the middle chapters of our lives. What is it?
This is why. This is
living in the middle of America in the middle chapter of our lives with the point of view.
This is why writers aren't performers.
We're leaving all of this in. You know the thing. We have a centrist point of view, and we're awesome. In this episode, we cover a lot of things. We talk about handkerchiefs and their significance in the gay community in the 70s. Dylan challenged us last week to make patties out of our leftover Thanksgiving stuffing and make it a sandwich, and he didn't participate because he's a jerk. But he did try some other things. He's going to talk about that. We talk about the game. And then at the end, we cover a bunch of things that we're streaming. Enjoy, because we sure did.
Leave it all in.
Give us a founding member.
Oh yeah, we're also founding members of the Odd Pods Media Network. Oh, for the love!
Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it.
You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved. From the middle after dark over here.
What do you think about rewriting the lyrics to the song Tiny Bubbles, and then we could change the title to Chubby Hubbles? I think that'd be a real banger.
I'm on it.
Oh my gosh!
Kendall's the musician. Go for it, buddy.
Chubby Hubbles in
On the
my
mic. On the mics.
On the
On the
mics. Make me feel happy. Make me feel fine.
Yeah.
That could be our new intro sometimes.
We're going to have to pass that along to Sam.
We'll shoehorn Kendall in there somehow. The word Kendall.
In the gay community, would we be considered bears? Is that the term? Bigger guys with beards?
I'm unqualified to.
So, I started wearing a handkerchief in my back pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Word.
As a facial covering when going into public places.
Okay.
And it also looked pretty cool on the Harley when I was like, just a bit of a handkerchief was flailing behind me.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, well, I'm not just going to put any handkerchief in there. I'm going to color coordinate with the rest of my outfit.
As naturally.
As a biker would.
Right. And then I remember vaguely, I was like, I think there's a thing in the gay community about handkerchiefs in your back pocket. Have you heard about this before?
I've not.
So back in the 70s, primarily, a whole secret message system was created about colored handkerchiefs in the back pockets of gay men to signal to other gay men what they were, quote unquote, down for.
Interesting.
And I was like, I've been doing this handkerchief in my back pocket thing for a while now during COVID. Is that still a thing? So I looked it up, which is great for my search history. And it turns out that, yeah, in fact, there was. It's no longer practiced today, so we're in the clear. But different colors meant different things, that you were down for certain things or not. And then which pocket you put it in meant you were either dominant or submissive. So a big spoon or a little spoon or a top or a
yeah. These days,
fun facts.
Yeah.
Question: what's the the political signs people put in their yards on the little metal stands? What's that material? the plasticky kind of sign,
corrugated,
whatever.
board.
You could just get the eggplant emoji printed on that and put that in your back pocket if you wanted.
There you go.
Well, I think the whole flying your flag in your back pocket was basically replaced by Grindr, right? I mean, we don't have to be secretive about it anymore.
I suppose. I would say that the handkerchief thing these days, maybe generally speaking, means more if you're using the handkerchief to color coordinate with the rest of your app.
In the back of my mind, Netflix recently added every episode of Seinfeld, and in the back of my mind, I hear Jerry and George going, "Not that there's anything wrong with that," over and over after every sentence that comes out of your mouth.
So the fact that I wore an orange handkerchief tonight to color coordinate with my new kicks is more of a sign than what I was describing.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to talk about your kicks, right?
Nope.
No.
So anyway, I just thought I'd ask.
Wait, which kicks?
I don't know. So, hey, we really appreciate when you all reach out, and
We seriously love it.
yeah, it's one of our favorite things. There are a lot of ways to do that, all of which are described in great detail in the description below. But we got an email from a listener, Sherry, and I wanted to read that to you. This is in reference to episode number 128, where we were talking about, a few different things. But Kendall posed the question, when we're older, who are the people that are going to be promoting like Medicare and what were the other examples you gave?
Medicare, reverse mortgages,
diabetes.
Like when you're the commercials that come on when you're watching Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune.
Got it. So Sherry says, my choice for a Medicare spokesperson would be Mario Lopez or Zac Efron.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I could see both of those.
Yeah, more
Easily.
so Mario Lopez I could see happening.
Sure. Right.
And then we talked a little bit about photography in that episode and like the sort of posed super fake, like, Dylan running through a field of grass when I don't think he's ever been in a field of grass.
Or running.
Look natural. Just don't be yourself.
Yeah.
And here's what she says about that. A few good thoughts. I enjoy photography and have carried a camera around my entire life. I think capturing all the moments are so important. For me, the art is what my natural eye captures in the lens, the aesthetics, backgrounds, etc. I may use Photoshop to do minor touch-ups, etc., but I want to provide my clients something natural. I remember one of your earlier episodes that related to the question, what is art? I really struggle with how photography has evolved over the last 20 years. After listening to that episode, I thought about it from a different perspective. We're getting people thinking, you guys.
No way.
She says maybe the new photographer's art isn't about capturing that perfect moment in the lens, but more about their expertise in posing and Photoshop, creating an experience for their client, and social media influence. Personally, I'm a beginner in Photoshop and I have no desire to become good at it. Does that make me a bad photographer? No. But it makes me a bad new photographer. Having a good eye and navigating through Photoshop, etc. are two different skill sets. I get totally annoyed by all the naturally posed, hat-wearing, head thrown back laughing photos or baby tied up in the wrap sitting in a bucket. Everybody's doing it, which makes it not very creative. However, I appreciate the art behind the scenes, what it took to make that photo just perfect. It's beautiful work, and I admire and enjoy it. So to each his own, I see both sides. In the meantime, go schedule a family photo at JCPenney. I guess that would be considered a middle-of-the-road option for you middlers. Sherry.
Indeed.
Thanks for the email, Sherry. Really good thoughts and love your answers about who the elderly spokespersons are going to be in our not-too-distant future.
Yeah. And the art stuff is, I constantly think about that too. And I like her point that maybe she's a good photographer, but maybe not as great at the quote unquote new photographer.
Right.
If it all comes down to basically what the experience that people are expecting from you.
Right.
Right. And so that's when, like in the music world, people of our generation a lot of times tend to look at some of the newer music and say, well, you don't have the fundamentals down to play a guitar as technically as the people that I grew up listening to. So are they actually musicians? And the answer is, well, what does it matter? They're still, even if they're just sitting in front of a computer, they're still able to make something that could be creative, could still have its own technical stuff that we don't even know about. and maybe they are pushing the boundaries of meters and time signatures. They're just throwing all of that stuff out the window and kind of trying to do their own thing because they're doing possibly something different. They're not trying to wow you with, look at what my fingers can do, but they're trying to wow you with, look at what my mind has come up with, or listen to the story that I'm trying to tell without using words, those kinds of things. So it is different. I prefer the let 'em live attitude. I think it's funny to take an extremist position sometimes on things. But for people who know me personally, know that when it comes to these kinds of things, I typically have the let 'em live kind of attitude. And even if I don't enjoy it, I can still appreciate that someone else does.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was doing a deep dive on some music related article, and it was talking about how some current pop musician, doesn't matter, insert name. It was like somebody doesn't write their own music. And it led to this deep discussion about that's a test that we're holding up against modern musicians that like no one had ever applied to musicians like Elvis, or like that was a thing that came out with like the Beatles and later, and even then is the exception, not the rule. Most of these artists were never known for writing music, being singer-songwriters essentially.
Right.
That is an exception, not a rule. But we like to apply that to like modern pop genre artists. Like, well, Rihanna doesn't even write her own music. Like that's not normal. That's the abnormal. But that's just this way to judge music in a way that's really unfair. So it's funny because I just happened to kind of go down that rabbit hole, and I'd never thought about it before.
Yeah.
You just hear that about pop artists specifically as a way to like pick on them.
Yeah.
And that's, it's not even
But
fair.
even then, like if what you appreciate is creative songwriting, whether that's lyrics or music or both, then that's fine. That's okay. You should probably get to know the names of some writers and follow them, and figure out the different artists that they've worked with and pick and choose songs that way. And that's perfectly fine and acceptable. But it's okay for other people to just say, you know what, I enjoy listening to the person singing it that way. I watched it. I was going to bring it up anyway, but last night I watched for the first time, didn't even know it was a thing. Jimmy Fallon is hosting a celebrity game show called That's My Jam.
Of course he is.
And it was just kind of blindly on the TV. And I started paying attention because, for one thing, I love Blake Shelton. I think the dude's hilarious. And so he was there. He had basically all of the, what's the show? The Voice judges were all there, and they were teamed up against one another, two teams of two. They did this one battle between Kelly Clarkson and Ariana Grande, where they were just, it was karaoke style, going back and forth, singing portions of these random songs by female vocalists, and their job was to try to perform and emulate that female vocalist. It seriously almost brought tears to my eyes how good they were at that. If I were to close my eyes, and I would not have been able to tell you that was Kelly Clarkson and not Alanis Morissette singing You Ought to Know.
Wow.
It was perfect. I think they both did Celine Dion impressions that were spot on, and like it was amazing. I was blown away, which I rarely am from these types of shows, at Kelly Clarkson, Ariana Grande, the pure talent that they had, and the emotion that they were able to kind of feed a song on a dime, just turn around and do it. And it was amazing to me.
Appropriately titled, because those are the ones they've been practicing in their showers for like their whole lives, and that's why they can like channel all this energy and emotion.
Yeah.
And
I felt like they were songs that they would have grown up with anyway. If people watch a lot of Jimmy Fallon, you get the feeling that a lot of like the randomized kind of games that they have, like on the Tonight Show, aren't really random, For some reason, certain celebrities always get the same impressions that they're supposed to randomly try. I did get the feeling that this was legitimately random because in other parts of the show, they were struggling with some things.
Yeah, so that's a bit he's done when he's had a musical artist on his couch, but he'll say, "Sing this nursery rhyme in the voice of, and Ariana Grande is one of the ones who's super good at it.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you.
Speaking of random impressions worth Googling, Bill Hader's Alan Alda is really good. Totally random person to improvise on, and not super popular A-list celebrity, but that's a really good one. Check that one out.
Just realized my headset wasn't on. Dylan, last week was Thanksgiving, and I
Sure
think we all
was.
had a good time with friends and family, and had some good food.
Mm-hmm.
And you searched the interwebs for, or tell us the premise again about this challenge that you came up with.
Yeah.
So great idea, Dylan. We should.
Yeah. So somebody on social media asked a question about unique Thanksgiving traditions.
That's
or foods.
right.
And
That's
one of the comments I found particularly fascinating, and it was this idea of taking they said that their family likes to take stuffing or dressing, depending on where you live in the country, for Thanksgiving, make it extra moist, form it into like a patty, and then fry it up. So my question, I was kind of intrigued by that. My question was, if we were tasked with turning that into a sandwich, how would we do so? You two were able to get the supplies, I understand, over Thanksgiving weekend to actually make this happen.
Yeah.
I did not. I was at somebody else's home for Thanksgiving. It was not my home to run off with leftovers to test this. But
So you sent us off on this little exercise and didn't participate? Is that what you're saying?
well, it turns out if you have croutons, Italian breadcrumbs, and some water, you can slosh together quite a paste.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. Once I fried it and then ladled that onto some bread to try. I'm just kidding. I didn't do any of that. No, I haven't tried it yet. Our friends over at, I will say though, I'll jump in really quick though. Our friends over at the Grab 'em and the Brisket podcast, who actually know how to prepare food, said use 2 stuffing patties instead of bread. Add some turkey, a little mayo, and some cranberry sauce, and you're golden. That was
Nice.
That was their idea for the turkey sandwich.
That's a perfect idea, and maybe kind of not in a bad way, an obvious idea, in that we missed it.
Yeah.
Because we talked about, you don't want bread on bread, and we skipped over. My wife told me last week after listening to that episode, was she spends a frustratingly long amount of time listening to our podcast, screaming at the obvious answers that we miss to things, to questions, and or things that we get wrong that we just don't bother to correct. And
well, I'm an idiot.
and that was one of them, actually, from her.
Rightfully so. I'm an idiot. And when I read it and it was form into patty and fry, my brain says, well, that's the middle.
Patty.
Because you've made a patty.
They lost
so
you at
how
patty.
would you do things around that to make it into a sandwich? Well, yes, for our friends at the Grab 'em and the Brisket podcast and for your wife, who are much smarter than we are, yes, you could have just fried those and made them into 2 sandwiches. In fact, I think KFC did something similar with like fried chicken breasts and made those the sandwich.
I even mentioned
a long
that.
time ago. Did you on the
I even
episode?
mentioned that.
So you mentioned that in that episode. I'm the idiot. Everyone's right and being frustrated, but you guys got to actually try it.
Yes,
Indeed.
So our listeners have been waiting with bated breath.
Unplanned. Yes.
I mean, all right. Sorry.
What was the other one?
The other one is a long story. We don't.
No,
have
what was the other one?
the third one?
Yeah.
We don't have a third one.
No, we have the one.
We don't
the
anymore
old one.
because I switched SD cards.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
I think Corey is hilarious.
We're missing all kinds of things. I forgot to do that. We forgot to do the lighting and then all that.
So, listener, you've been waiting with bated breath to hear what 2 of us did with the leftover stuffing patty challenge. And if you're on the YouTubes, we are going to share my video first. And if you're just listening in your car, check out our YouTube channel. We'll post these separately so that you can see my master culinary skills at work. All right, we talked about it on the podcast this week about what if you were to make a patty out of your leftover stuffing from Thanksgiving. So I took an egg and and fried this stuffing patty. Gonna put it on the
It's a nice large patty, by the way.
We argued about whether or not putting it on bread was redundant, but we're gonna try it anyway.
I still say no.
A few pieces of leftover turkey. Haven't decided if I'm gonna use the cheese or not. Some warmed up gravy over the whole thing.
Nice.
Leave some of that for maybe we try one with the cheese. All that together.
Struggling with the smush. Struggling with the one-handed smush.
I'll let you know.
All right. So before we
That was very
before any comments, you're about to find out just how amateur hour that nonsense was. Because look at what this freaking guy does. Go ahead, share your video, Ken.
So I'm going to start with some sharp white cheddar cheese, throwing it on some parchment paper, making it into a rough circle shape. This is going to go into a 420 degree oven. It took maybe 10 minutes or so for it to get all melted down. While that was cooking, I made this aioli using about 2 tablespoons of cranberry sauce, 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise, and about maybe half a tablespoon or so of the spicy mustard. This stuff is amazing, by the way. You should make this, and you should put it on everything. I'm going to put it on my cereal tomorrow morning. Here I am frying up the patty, the stuffing patty, not much to talk about there. But then I
That's my jam.
have the cheese there in the oven. When it gets all bubbly like that, that's when you know it's melted through and ready to go. So you need to let that cool, which is tricky. Because if you let it cool for too long, it'll solidify into that flat shape. What you want is a taco shell shape. So you need to be able to transfer it over to something that you can drape it
This freaking
in that manner. And then when that's all cooled, then you can go ahead and assemble. So I'm going to put some of that aioli right on top of that patty. And then I'm going to put that whole thing into our white cheddar cheese shell, which begs the question, is a taco a sandwich?
No.
For that matter, is this even a taco? I don't know, but it should be.
Putting me to shame.
So, I have a couple of questions. As the person who I think in the episode was the first one to come out and say, I don't think I was going to put cheese on the thing.
Right.
And then I ended up like using cheese as the main ingredient. Did you make two? Did you try?
So I
one?
did the one that you saw in the video, and then I did an open face one where I just did a second stuffing patty, more strips of turkey.
Yeah.
No, cheese first, then more strips of turkey, then the gravy again.
Okay.
I think I prefer the open face style of what I did. The bread was a little much.
So open face style. Did you put more gravy on it then?
Yeah.
Before the open face situation?
Yeah.
Cool. Did you have any mashed potatoes in the fridge?
No.
Because that would have been good.
No.
Okay.
And it was very good. Something about frying the stuffing, that crispiness to an otherwise, moist and soft dish was nice. I'm very jealous of your aioli. And the cheese taco skills, bro. I've never even seen that before.
Cheese taco. That's, so we were talking before, I love cooking, which means I watch a lot of cooking videos, which means to me, I have seen a lot of people make cheese taco shells before in cheese bowls and things. This was a surprise to you guys.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen it before.
And you watch a lot of cooking shows, Dylan.
I don't think anybody is making cheese shells frequently that I watch on anything that I watch. So this might be a YouTube phenomenon where they're trying to make purposefully unique food.
It could be.
Not like traditional dishes and then slight spins on traditional dishes.
Yeah.
Doesn't Babish like to do stuff like foods that are in cartoons and movies and
that's about half of what Babish does is kind of outlandish stuff like that. I tend to like the outlandish foodie videos.
Yeah. He's doing the bacon pancakes from Adventure Time.
Right.
Because that's the kind of stuff
he did a moist maker from Friends.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So because I don't watch him, I don't get those spin-off videos where it's check out this food from Ghostbusters.
Oh, that's a good point. So because I'm watching Babish a lot, because a lot of times I haven't necessarily seen Babish do the cheese taco.
Yeah.
But like the algorithm is like, well, if you like weird stuff, here's a bunch of people making cheese shells.
All you can eat cheese tacos, baby. I mean, I'd eat it. Don't get me wrong. It sounds
But
delicious.
that was my solution to trying to not do bread again.
Yeah.
That was my.
And how was it? It looks amazing.
I'm going to do it again. It was
yeah.
amazing.
Really?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. It had a texture that was incredible because the cheese like gets on the edges. It gets crispy and stuff, right? Now, everybody's had cooked cheese before, even if like they just stole a piece off of a.
Yeah,
from
no,
making
go
a
on though.
grilled cheese.
Don't cut me off.
But
Keep talking about the cheese. You're good.
keep talking about the cheese. Don't
Yeah,
cut
sure.
you. Did I cut you off?
No, I meant don't cut off my enjoyment if you're talking about the cheese.
Gosh.
Yeah, and that's all you get. You get to hear about it because you didn't do jack squat.
You get to.
You lazy bones. You ought to feel ashamed of yourself.
But
This was your exercise.
Look,
Yeah.
there's no one more excited to eat and try new foods than this chubby bubble. All right. I was dying to try it, and it, like I said, my polite Midwestern part of me took over. When it wasn't my house, I couldn't ask for food to take with me when it wasn't my house.
Yeah, fine.
I couldn't do it.
Family's house.
Nah.
It was.
It was in-laws, which I understand that dynamic there is a little bit different.
Yeah, and we've even talked about being comfortable going into people's houses and taking food out of the fridge and stuff. This is Thanksgiving, so this is like the Indiana Jones stealing the crystal skull type level of that. This is not...
I feel like the dynamic at a lot of Thanksgivings is people are like trying to get rid of food.
Yeah, but the problem is like I didn't see them putting it away, so it got to the point where it was like now it's all packed away in the fridge, and so it's very obvious I'm rooting around.
Well, next time just bring a Ziploc baggie with you to the dinner table.
Well, and I could have done that. And if I had known it was cold enough, I could have made a plate, went out and set it in my car, and just let it sit there for hours, and then ran it inside.
So we had a
Anyways.
big family version, and right when the very first people started going through the line, I went to the host, Dylan and I's Aunt Kathy, and I said, "Listen, Dylan wants us to do this thing, so I need a cup of some stuffing, some extra strips of turkey, and a little bit of gravy before this whole shindig is over." She's like, "No problem, take what you want." And there was a crap ton left over.
Yeah.
Hey, do you have anything you did want to say about Thanksgiving, abandoner of tasks?
I think that was it. So you guys both liked your experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll do it again.
Okay, you would do it again. We did get a nice tweet. We also, in that episode, we talked about starting to decorate for Christmas.
Indeed.
In our last episode, John on Twitter said we were ready with our lights and decor 2 days after Christmas, and sent us a couple pictures if you want to follow us on Twitter. Just totally decked out. Yard is completely
Very beautifully
full.
done.
Yard is completely full of all kinds of blow up things and lights, and so John, thank you for sending us those photos. That was fantastic.
Did you have any other stories about Thanksgiving that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, well, so we talked a little bit about, as we were talking about Thanksgiving food, the thing that kind of led up to that. I tried some new stuff that I've probably tried a long time ago, but it's been so long I haven't given it a fair shot kind of as an adult. Okay. So now obviously this is going to be highly based on, some people's families, they aren't good cooks and the food sucks at holidays. And sometimes you go places where the food is great.
Careful, you're talking about your in-laws.
Fortunately, the food at my in-laws is great. So I felt really comfortable trying some of these things for I'll say the first time, or maybe the first time since my childhood, and I've kind of forgotten. So a few things that I tried, maybe again, I don't remember. I did try stuffing. I ate a good amount of stuffing, and I liked it. It was really good. It was baked, had a nice crispy top edge, but it was really soft and moist in the bottom. It just didn't get any to make into a patty. I tried some sweet potatoes. Now, a lot of times I'll see these with marshmallows coating the pan.
Yeah, that's the sweet potato casserole.
This was a brown sugar crunchy top.
That's like the more like the candied yams kind of thing.
Yeah, so it was that. Also very good. Basically a dessert. Basically a dessert. I also tried fruit salad, but it wasn't normal fruit salad. This is called like it's named after a certain kind of dessert.
Ambrosia?
I don't know. It was like apples and marshmallows and like Cool Whip.
Yeah,
but
ambrosia.
it's named after actually something that's typically more things, but in like a mayonnaise base. If that's what it is.
I think so.
That was nice, although that was served with a food, and that also felt like a dessert.
Interesting.
So, not a criticism, because everyone is going to have dishes whenever they had them growing up forever. But I thought those are two kind of weird things. I would expect those to be with the desserts. And then I had cranberry sauce. Didn't like that at all. Not good.
The homemade kind or the canned ocean spray kind?
I think it was canned.
Was it cut into
Well,
slices?
then you were eating like a
No, it was kind of like
soft Jell-O.
it was like broken down with a spoon into a little bowl. Not
okay.
good. I wouldn't
See,
eat
I'm
it
not a
again.
fan of that stuff either.
Not-
I love homemade cranberry sauce. Though,
Yeah,
which is absolutely nothing like what you just described.
yeah, and I'm
like-
I'm totally open to trying homemade whatever that is.
Homemade cranberry sauce.
Yeah, I
which is
mean-
like it's what I used for the aioli.
Yeah,
It's more like a jam. It's more like a jam, and you get you have like actual whole cranberries that kind of like pop in your mouth as you bite into them.
Oh, well, this had that. Those had whole cranberries.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Well, then I don't know what it is you
It was like a jam or jelly, but it had some whole cranberries in it.
Well, then maybe you had the real stuff then.
Maybe I just didn't like it.
It's
I'm not a
possible.
huge cranberry person anyways.
Okay.
Like, even if you gave me a glass of cranberry juice, I'd have to think about it.
Okay. I'm a cranberry apologist.
Okay.
So
This is some
we're butting heads
This
right
is
now.
some banter I never expected here. So, this is something this brought back to mind this idea that I had a long time ago that we need
Yes,
to do.
We need to do this.
Now that the world has opened and restaurants everyone is out and we're trying foods and whatever, I want to do, and I'm putting this out there to get a little reaction because I don't know if anyone would care. I think we should do a set of YouTube videos called One Last Shot, and I think we need to try some foods we don't like or never eat or have not traditionally been a fan of, and just really try them again, try to get the best version we can of something, and legitimately try to give them one last shot. Like, we're adults, we're in the middle of our lives. This isn't like the stuff that we haven't eaten for 20 years because we were a kid and we thought it was gross. You know, like, I'm not a big sauerkraut person, but you know what I need to do? I need to get a good brat and a good bun and some good sauerkraut.
Give sauerkraut the best shot it
And
could possibly have.
I just need to give it one last shot.
I like this.
And see if maybe if I get a good version, not that I wouldn't have had that growing up, but it's been so long. I need to get a good version, not a cheap Speedway gas station hot dog version,
right.
and really try it one last time.
Well, you talk about, I think we need to like prepare. Maybe we should find out, like, among us,
Right.
what we love and could prepare for the other people.
Yeah.
So sauerkraut, for example, you've got essentially, as far as I know, two worlds of sauerkraut.
Okay.
There's like cold deli style, really vinegary tasting, and that's what you find as a hot dog topping usually.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Then you have like German prepared sauerkraut, which is usually not really like all that tangy and vinegary. It's very savory. It's cooked often in like bacon fat, and it's
I need
got more
that
of a
one.
fennel flavor to it.
I need that one.
That kind of thing. And you can mix sausage into it.
Yeah,
and now
yeah,
you have like
yeah.
this one dish meal of sauerkraut and sausage kind of all mixed together.
Mm-hmm.
That's very different from the sauerkraut that you're putting on a hot dog.
Yeah, and I'd be willing to try both, but
I like both.
that's the idea.
Yeah.
So I think we need to make a list
yes.
collectively. If people
Yes.
like this idea, if there's a hunger for this kind of content on YouTube, this would be like fun bonus content because we can't do it in the studio. We'd have to prepare it and bring it here.
could.
we totally
could.
could.
Well, I mean, we could record it, but I don't know if it would be. The food would need to be hot. It feels easier.
That's why
doesn't
God
matter.
made crock pots.
Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. We'll figure out the time and place.
But I have been hearing from listeners that they were enjoying the food taste testing stuff with the shrimp chips and things like that.
I just
So-
haven't seen anything weird in a while. So trust me, I did just get you guys. I did just bring in a chili paste.
Yeah.
we don't have to pitch it, but if we like it, maybe we can talk about it. And I found a place to get some wing hot sauces.
I think you just did, but hold on. I'm getting a call. Hold on.
Oh, good Lord.
Hello?
Hello, Michael.
Hello? Yeah. Oh, we need to go to break? Got it. Yeah, this is a good time to hear some words from our friends in the Odd Pods Media Network.
Hey, I'm Pantsless Aaron,
This is Stevie.
And I'm Augie.
and we are BFYTW, a podcast all about playing games and having fun. Our games are usually based on British panel shows and game shows, but we'll play anything that captures our attention and imagination. Why? It's right there in the title.
You'll never guess what the F stands for.
And we're back. Before, I think this was like 2 episodes ago or maybe last episode, before we recorded that night on Zoom. I love being back in studio, by the way.
Weird.
Before we recorded that night on Zoom, I had just gotten an email from Patreon that Tiger Belly, the podcast hosted by Bobby Lee and his girlfriend Kalila Kuhn, was going to have Judd Apatow on the podcast. And they said, for all of our patrons, if you'd like to ask Judd a question, go ahead and enter it below.
So who's Judd Apatow?
I was going to say, I think everybody knows Judd Apatow, but he's
I don't.
a pretty iconic comedy like director producer. Corey will pull up his IMDb to give us a couple credits, but a lot of the comedies from the last 20 years, some of the biggest ones, he's probably
So
tied to.
I love directors, producers, and writers and stuff. Actors, I just feel like they don't write their own lines, and I
Right.
So he wrote Girls, which is really popular right now on HBO, Knocked Up, The King of Staten Island, 40-Year-Old Virgin, a lot of different things. Zen Diaries, Julia Naked,
He's been
Jerry Seinfeld.
He's been affiliated with a lot of comedy.
He was a stand-up
Yeah.
before that. Anyway, so it was like, feel free to ask Judd a question. I knew Dylan was aware of Judd, so I said, hey man, before we record, what would you like to ask Judd Apatow if you could ask him any question? And I was looking at some of the questions that other patrons were asking, and it was like, would you make out with Bobby? It was just dumb stuff, right? So Dylan and I, mostly Dylan, crafted this really thoughtful question. I tweaked it a bit and submitted it. Forgot that I had done that.
yeah.
And then after Thanksgiving, I'm chilling because we got the extended weekend. I'm watching the episode and I remember, oh, we submitted a question and then forgot again while watching. And then they get to the end of the episode and this happens.
All right. This is from Corey Hubble. This is for Judd, but everyone in the room can answer. You get to create or jump into all kinds of comedic projects. But if you could, without constraint, jump to an existing IP or totally spin up your own version of something, no network interference or studio interference, what would it be? Like Marvel, Star Wars, anything.
It'd be fun to do like another Hangover movie if you had the great idea. I feel like people want it so badly.
Yeah.
Right? Like right now, the world's like, give us a good hangover. I've been in the house for 2 years. I want a hangover. Like, but that movie would be like a gift to the world.
I think so too. Yeah.
That would be a fun one.
Did you produce that one?
I had nothing to do with it. But they were all so funny, and I loved it.
Yeah.
But you know, and Zach is the funniest. So.
Oh yeah.
Either that or what? What else?
They were saying there's like Dune, there's Marvel, historical.
Logan. I want to do another Logan.
Logan too.
Yeah, Logan too.
Yeah. Good one.
So I freak out, and they only said my name because it's my Patreon account, by the way. That was totally Dylan's question. I freak out, and I'm like, oh my gosh. They actually asked. They were going to cut to their last segment, which is unhelpful advice, where fans write in and the host and the guests give bad advice, intentionally bad, or sometimes actually helpful advice. Mm-hmm. But they're like, wait, we have a fan question. And then they said our last name, Chubby Hubbles. And I was like, yeah. And I sent it to you. And what did you think?
I loved it. I mean, the practical side of me enjoyed the answer, but then you're sort of, it's just like the Kevin Smith doing the promo for like some of our Odd Pods friends and us.
Yeah.
When you hear them sort of talking about something and then you hear Judd Apatow kind of like engaging in a question that you wrote because you're genuinely curious, like it's the same idea as being typecast and all these people who get typecast. And it's like, if you could just go do anything, what would you want to work on? So like, I would never have guessed Logan 2, the Marvel movie about Wolverine, Logan, that he would have wanted to make a second Logan. Like it's the last thing. It just gives you a little bit of an idea of like where their heads at or stuff that they enjoy. That's not just the thing that they always get, sort of pegged for it. And so I loved it. It was great. And then you're realizing it's sort of, holy cow, they were just talking about like what we wanted to know. It was really cool. I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, so we're going to post that to YouTube as well, and it'll be our second pinned video next to the Kevin Smith one, just because we're feeling our flow on that one. That was really, really cool.
We can't take down Kevin, and because we didn't, that wasn't like a paid cameo video from Kevin Smith, which is like my favorite part of the Kevin Smith video. That a lot of people can pay for cameos. That was not that. And that was just him doing an ad for Odd Pods and for our show, and we can't take that down. It's too good.
So only because you brought up cameo, our brother-in-law, Chad, texted me tonight and informed me that my new least favorite people, and I don't throw around the word hate very often, but I want to say I hate these guys. The Island Boys. Do you guys know about the freaking Island Boys?
I don't
Just
think
a
so.
tiny bit.
Okay, so it's two rappers who are brothers. They have separate careers. Their hair looks like crazy weird. I don't even want to describe it in words. They had a video that went viral where they're in a pool and just going, "We're the Island Boys, we're the Island Boys, we're the Island Boys, we're the Island Boys." And the video's so triggering, and I don't know why. Just everything inside of me reacted viscerally to these two jack wagons. Anyway, Chad, our brother-in-law, said, hey, the Island Boys are on Cameo. I wish I had your name for Christmas and $200. I said, my reaction would be the gift for you. I'd hate it. Anyway, if you haven't, I don't even want to know. Don't give them clicks. Just trust me when I say it's a video of two weird tattooed idiots mumbling in a pool, and they're like celebrities now.
I don't there might be one video you can look up. I just saw a video of them at a club or something, and my take on the video is the DJ must have turned off the music because they're so bad, but they kept rapping, and people start booing them.
I love it. Let's share that video.
So if you want to do Island Boys getting booed at club, you can probably find that one.
All right.
Now, I know we have a Facebook group called From the Middle for the Middlers, and I know I just invited upon myself a crap ton of Island Boy videos and memes, so I know I'm inviting this on myself when I say that, but I do want to know, listener, reader, viewer, are you also triggered by these guys? What is it? Why are they so infuriating without any knowledge of their music or anything? Just looking at them makes me want to punch something, and I don't understand.
Yeah, it's fine. I've been getting DMs calling me baby for the last week, so you just embrace the hate, baby.
Anyway.
Just embrace the hate.
Speaking of hate, we have to talk about it. Too many of our listeners know the situation. Two of us are Ohio State fans.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
One of us is a Michigan
I was going
fan.
to let you get away with it.
Congratulations on the win.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy it. I've still not healed. Somebody else has to talk.
I've had several days of weeping to really feel a lot better about it. And that's not true.
You'll learn to go about your life.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard when your beloved team you tell yourself it's just a game. It's just a game. These are college students, student athletes playing a game. Yes, the rivalry is probably the most important in all of sport. It's just a game. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. But I couldn't, man. I was bummed out.
You're not alone. There's a lot of people who are like that. Now, I am going to say this. This isn't meant to be backhanded, because there are a lot of people who are big fans of all teams who go through what you just discussed. But with Ohio State, it's almost the entire culture, and it seems like almost the entire community of Buckeye fans goes through it all together that way, which is different. The rest of the country is not this way. Some are closer. There's a spectrum on it, and Ohio State is on the extremist end of that spectrum of having an entire community responding this way to a loss like that. I don't. I relate to the disappointment. I don't relate to the it's ruining my day.
I don't. I think what honestly made it worse for me was not even so much that we lost, but people who've never talked about sports and for 18 of the last 20 years start throwing up Michigan banners on their Facebook profiles who've been completely silent about. It's like, if you're a fan of your team, be a fan of your team all the time, not just because you beat us one time in the last decade, right? So, like, don't wait until that moment to then be like, yeah, here I am.
So you're telling me you are still upset?
No. I'm saying
that's what I'm hearing.
That's the thing that bothered me more that day.
Yeah, it's like virtue signaling.
It's like out of nowhere, all of a sudden your profile pictures. I've never seen you wearing Michigan gear ever in any picture, and now all of a sudden that's your profile picture.
Yeah,
that's almost a little more, because it feels fair weathery, right? If your team team is bad, support your team, or don't, but like, don't wait to come out of the cracks like once you finally won.
Well, I mean, what else are you have a reason to celebrate now?
Sure, but like, it's also okay every other week of the season to post a picture of you wearing Michigan stuff. This isn't the first time they've played.
So you
all
think
year.
that they're purposely they're hiding their Michigan-ness,
yes,
until they beat Ohio State, and then they're letting their Michigan-ness
ashamed of it, unwilling to say that they're a fan until they finally had a big win, and then they were willing to come out and show themselves.
All right,
the equivalent of like virtue signaling, where you're like, you've never cared about race issues. You've never spoken up on behalf of race issues ever. And then you change your social media profile picture to the all black
when
thing.
It becomes popular.
When it becomes the in vogue thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's virtue signaling. It's an attempt.
At the end of the day,
you know who was a fan?
Who was a fan?
You know who was a fan of us? Sorry, you were going to say at the end of the day. Sebastian Maniscalco.
That's right.
That's it. Hey,
we had Sebastian on our side. Made me feel better.
Moral victories are still victories.
That's right.
And I'm glad that you guys have something to hold on to.
Yeah. I'll cling to it.
Feels good.
But congratulations.
That's more the funny take.
Thank you. Yeah, if I wasn't involved, they probably still could have done it. But I will accept the congratulations.
You out toughed us.
Yeah.
100%.
And actually, what that kind of game, it's not hard in any given week, and I'm not demeaning the victory at all, but this happens all the time in college football. If any one team shows up and plays their best game and the other one doesn't, it doesn't matter who the two teams are. You can have the Boise State Oklahoma upset. You can have the App State Michigan upset. You can have us losing at Michigan, and sometimes it's close and both teams play well, and we just didn't play well.
I would say what I believe to be more accurate statement is that Michigan, of all the teams Ohio State played this year, Michigan matched up by far the worst for Ohio State.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think Michigan had their best day, arguably one of the best games of the season. They showed up and we did not, and we lost because we looked average.
Michigan was much more balanced.
I think we've said all that needs to be said.
lots of nervous energy. Here's how I made myself feel better that day.
That was all love.
One last comment. I was thinking back on the last time we lost was the Luke Fickell season, right? So we were 6-6.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, if somebody came to me that day and said, "Hey, would you take you winning as you being Ohio State? You're going to win the next 9 years, but on the 10th year, you're going to lose by 2 touchdowns." You would take that trade-off for that 6-6 season all day, every day.
Oh, sure.
Anyone in any rivalry forever. Because that sounds so not only reasonable, that sounds so still unfair for Michigan that you're like, heck yeah, who wouldn't take 9 out of 10 victories? Yeah. And so I was like, that was the last time we lost. We literally had an interim coach, and then we went on a streak of 9. And anybody would take that for their own team all day, every day. And congratulations, because Michigan just played better. They played far better than we did that day. And you got your trade-off game. So we'll try to shoot for 9 more, and then you can have one back.
All right.
So our last family Thanksgiving was on Sunday, and we drove to Dayton to Beatty's Mongolian Barbecue.
Nice.
For a 16-party table.
A lot of people.
And had a good time. It prompted a question for me, though, about traffic. We've whinged about traffic, which is a European word for whining. We've whined about traffic many times before, and like traffic etiquette. And I wonder something, and I would like to ask you guys' thoughts on this. If you see a car who, like, let's say they're in the fast lane with their turn signal on and they're clearly not passing or getting into the other lane. They're just driving with it on. Mm-hmm. Or it's dark and their lights are off.
Mm-hmm.
Do you take it upon yourself to try to help or correct that person by somehow signaling to them? Maybe their fuel flap, their gas door is open, or turn signals. Do you try to like pull up alongside them and take it? Or are you like a Sebastian Maniscalco, like, it's not your business, just keep driving?
Well, it's funny. You jotted down that question, and I was thinking, well, this could be actually finding ways to help people, or passive aggressively, quote, helping from my car.
Whichever.
By yelling.
Both are in
to
play.
myself.
Both are in play.
No. You said actual ways of trying to signal to somebody.
You're right.
I generally, like, I think the easiest one is the headlights, right? So
if the headlights are off,
or their brights are on,
yeah,
give them that. Or you pass police that are in the middle of the road. You know, maybe you want to signal to the next car, you throw the brights on, at least in the Midwest, couple clicks.
Is that legal, by the way?
It's actually not, I don't think.
I don't do that.
I've wondered that.
Could be a wives' tale.
I don't do that. I mean, but in theory, like, that's something I've thought about.
I appreciate it when I see it from someone else.
Theoretically see it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
so
I've had people flash because of deer when you're driving around here in the country, and they're like, "Hey, there's like a flock of deer. Be careful." So I've seen that signal and used that signal at times.
I'm trying to think of other situations where.
What about the turn signal one? Like, are you going to try to pull in front of them with yours on and then off and then on and then off to signal like your turn signal's still on?
That's where, so two thoughts there. That's exactly what I try to do. I try to, if it's a situation where I can kind of safely on a freeway get around them or whatever, I'll get in front of them. I won't brake check them or anything like that. Like, I'll make sure I'm still pacing them, right? I will turn on my turn signal, turn it on for a couple seconds, turn it off. Turn it on for a couple seconds, turn it off, in the hopes that gets them going. If I'm in a situation, and I've tried this before too, where like you're at a stoplight or something, and you think that they would notice if you flashed your lights at them, then that gets them at least saying, okay, the lights were just flashed at me, maybe I should look around. And then while you're looking around, you're like, oh, my turn signal's on.
Right.
So
I have no story there. It just got me thinking because on the way back, it's one thing if it's like dusk and their lights are off.
Yeah.
But it was now pitch black and we're on I-70 and this truck's lights were off.
Well, now you're going to get shot.
Speaking of getting shot, you know where that would happen the most? I used to work around Easton Town Center, the mall. Lots of shootings there. But anyways, they're mostly harmless. But seriously, the issue, any of the Columbus or Ohio people are laughing. It's fine. The issue there, in all seriousness, they have lots of parking garages, and the garages are actually so incredibly well lit. People will get in their car at night, not even realize their lights aren't on.
We've all done it.
Because they're super, super well lit. Garages. Actually very safe. But that was an issue all the time. People would pull out of the garages onto these streets around the town center, and there's even enough sort of lights down the main roads, different directions, that you'd have cars all the time. So I'd constantly try to flash my lights at him because obviously that's very dangerous. Even if people are only going 25, 30 miles an hour around the mall.
Can I say that on Thanksgiving when we were like on our way to my parents' house, I accidentally cut someone off at a stop sign, and ever since then I knew it was a black SUV. And ever since then, I'm like, I have two neighbors who drive black SUVs. I don't know if it was them. They know what my car is. And so now I feel weird going outside.
Yeah.
Well, and you have such a unique neighborhood.
A unique neighborhood?
Isn't that what the Walkers By said?
Oh, yeah, this is an interesting place.
This is an interesting one.
We got to get to the bottom of that.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a quick round of what we're watching? Any recommendations, or we want to save it?
I'll use the word recommendation kind of loosely. I assume most people have at least seen a trailer that Tiger King season 2 is out. And if that wasn't a flashback back to the beginning of the pandemic, boy, I don't know what was.
Speaking of bandanas.
Yeah. Have either of you watched any of it or read anything about it?
I read an article because the trailer was on Netflix, and Sherry just happened to walk by while two trashy, scantily clad women were climbing onto a bed with their butts in the air.
Naturally.
And I was like excited because not because of that scene, but because season 2 of this show was back. And she looked at me like, "You're not going to watch this garbage, are you?"
Well, and now your wife, who doesn't listen to this podcast, is somehow going to like overhear that, like just that.
And
sentence.
I was
excited.
and that's going to be the end of what she.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I promised her I wouldn't watch it, and instead read an article summarizing it. So
Okay. Kendall, did you watch?
I actually, so before you had asked us if we had watched it, I had seen that Tiger Belly 2 was Tiger Belly 2. Goodness gracious. Tiger King 2 was out. And so I did want to watch it. And then, so I thought, well, what I should do, this is what I normally would do, go back to the last episode of season 1 and watch that as a refresher.
Yeah.
So now I know what I'm doing with season 2. And so I went to do that. Tells you how much I remember. I accidentally watched the entirety of the final episode of season 2.
Oh, great.
And so I knew what happened. And then I tried to go back and watch. I think I watched most of episode 1 of season 2 after that. And I was like, yeah, this just doesn't feel the same. It's not like you're sitting on pins and needles watching that. Like, I guess, like, I feel like that's not why people are watching that show, because of the storyline. They're watching it to, like, we all know why we're all watching it. But for some reason, it still didn't feel the same, which makes me think that there is some storyline to it that I was interested in.
Kendall's like, it's almost like they left out 4 episodes preceding this or something.
That sounded like a weird spinoff, by the way, when you first said that, like Tiger Belly 2, the Chubby Hubbaloo. We binged. There's 5 episodes in Tiger Belly season 2. We just we binged it in a couple days. I'll give my summarized thoughts.
Yeah,
but
sure. That's
it's
what this
really
is.
So season 1 was more like just if you handpicked 5 random episodes across the entirety of Jerry Springer, that was season 1. Season 2 was like, oh, you really cared about Joe Exotic and did Carol Baskins kill her husband from season 1? We're going to make a true crime 5-episode arc about that.
Yes.
So that's really season 2. Like they much more finely tuned the flow of it and the information. It felt far less sporadic and much more like we're going to play up the true crime aspect of this, but also it's Tiger King and it's friggin' weird. With that said, tons happened and nothing happened in that season all at the same time. They have to have a season 3. And frankly, if you don't get around to watching season 2, but you want to see more, next time you see the season 3 trailer, because it's got to be inevitable, you can probably just hop in there. It doesn't mean don't watch it if you don't think that that's funny, because I certainly found it funny and interesting. They get a lot more into Carol Baskins, the details of her sort of life and around when her husband died, and a lot more into the husband's background. If you felt like Joe Exotic was a villain and good somehow all at the same time, that doesn't really change, through all of season 2. So it's just a lot of like background trying to piece together.
Yeah, that's what this article I read said, is that they're picking the bones of what was left from that original story, trying to dive deep in areas that they can, but really only asking more questions, especially about Baskin's husbands. And a lot's left to speculation. Yeah. But mainly, and not to get all PETA-like or whatever, you're still ignoring the issue of the animals the whole time. Mm-hmm. You're just following, you're putting so much energy. They're like, Netflix could have just written a check to a tiger preservation thing instead of doing a season 2, and it would have been money better spent. So this was obviously a more critical article, but they're like, there really wasn't much more that got resolved. Joe's still in prison. Nothing's changed there. That jerk guy that's running the zoo now is still a jerk.
Leather jacket guy.
And we're just speculating on what happened with Carol Baskins.
Well, the hard thing is, and this was totally my perception. I'm not saying it was overt at all. So they, at the tail end of season 1, they talk about the guy who owns something similar to a park like Joe Exotic, but in Indiana. And he starts building a new zoo with the other guy in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's off the deep end, but he makes a few points about animals as property, and he tries to boil down his argument really simply by saying, if these are my property and they're on my property, it doesn't matter what I'm doing with them. The federal government has no right to dictate what I'm doing with my property on my property. And that's such a basic argument that like almost anyone would agree with without context, that I feel like they were trying to really actually swerve away from the political side, because there's so much polarization politically in America right now. I feel like he almost made a good point, and they're like, let's just stay away from the political PETA political side of this, because they knew that there was enough other interesting information about Carol Baskins and the husband. They probably could have played that up for more dramatic effect and like made that a huge, well, what about the government and what about private land and private... I feel
but that's obviously not what they're trying to do.
Right,
that's not what they're trying to make.
But they could have, because it is wholly into that whole, or it's all tied into that animal ownership and exotic animals and making private zoos, and they could have easily gone that direction for more drama. But I actually felt like they kind of steered away from it a little bit.
All they're looking for is cheap dirt, because that's what they know the bulk of us want to see.
Yeah, that's what Dylan wants to see. So anyways, I was certainly entertained. It was only 5 episodes, so I feel like you're not committing to much if you watch an episode or 2 or all 5. But I also feel like if you skip it and waited for season 3, hoping that there was some more, because like I think Joe Exotic right now is like seriously ill, and is still in prison. So like by the time season 3 rolls around, he could be gone or out of prison. And there might be some more updates with some of the other things that they talk about. So anyways, certainly interesting.
Well, speaking of driving, Tom Segura months ago on his podcast was talking about him deep diving the show and binging Formula One, Drive to Survive. This is like a perfect example of something we've talked about before, how interesting it is when you get a really good glimpse into a culture that you know nothing about. That could be a fan base or an actual culture on the other side of the world, or a really niche food thing. It's just so interesting to me, right? And I got a glimpse of Indy a few years ago at Texas Motor Speedway, but the European F1 culture is something I know literally nothing about. And this show on Netflix is so beautifully shot, and the way that they weave the story of these teams and how F1 works. There's only 10 teams. Each team has 2 drivers. And so every young racer in Europe who starts in a go-kart wants to be one of those, and they change drivers regularly, and they'll swap teams. And so you can imagine the stuff that starts happening behind the scenes and the billions of dollars that are invested in this. The most famous race is probably Monte Carlo and Monaco, where you see all the yachts on the side of the rock face, and the track goes through the city.
Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
They shot part of that in that.
Celebrities go there. It's a big deal. That's just one of 21 races each season. And this show, I'm 2 seasons in. This show is so well done. I know nothing about the sport. I'm absolutely hooked. I've started following the drivers on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. And they're young, these young guys that are going from, zeros to literal overnight celebrities, driving for Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull. Those are the top 3 teams, and then the rest of the midfield is sort of they jockey for position kind of, but like Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull are like in the points year after year after year. They're the best of the best, and these other like lesser known teams that try to work their way up, and the drama and the crashes, and it's just so well done. I highly recommend it. Something I don't recommend as strongly. Are you guys M. Night Shyamalan fans?
Nah.
You like those sort of twisty suspense movies like Sixth Sense and The Village and
Yes.
all that type of stuff. So his newest one you may have seen a trailer for is called Old. A family is on vacation. They're on a beach and they find that they're aging rapidly. We're talking like years in a matter of minutes. And
Wow.
they don't know why. And if you know anything about Shyamalan films, there's always a twist. And so I'm not going to give away the twist. But it's one of those that you're like, all right, that was worth watching once. But the concept of human beings and a family in particular, where you've got 2 generations represented and they're there with some other families, it gets a little weird when you start thinking about what would happen if you were just aging super rapidly and your body didn't know your brain didn't know how to keep up with what was going on physiologically in your body. So like when they get to the beach, there are 2 kids playing together, a boy and the girl who are not related. And you can imagine as minutes go by into puberty and then they sneak off and then she comes back and she's an adult now and pregnant, or a teenager and pregnant. And then that, and it's just such a weird, because then the whole time you're trying to go, why are they aging? And they can't leave. There's something weird about, it's a little, I think they call it a crack canyon, where it's like, it's a canyon that's separated by only like a little vertical crack that you can just barely walk through. That's the only way to access the beach. Everything else is sheer rock faces. Okay. And when they try to go back out to where they got dropped off, something happens, they black out and they basically get pushed back out onto the beach. And so they can't escape. It's worth watching just to, if you're a Shyamalan fan, it's worth watching to just figure out what the twist is, but it's not a great movie. And there's a lot of them saying out loud what should be left to the audience's
inference.
Inference. They're just out loud going, well, it certainly can't be this. It must be this. And you probably wouldn't have drawn that conclusion. And it probably would have been better if they just wouldn't have said that.
I understand. Yeah.
You know what it's not explanation. It's, they're saying out loud the things that you should be leaving the audience to figure out.
Right.
Anyway, worth watching, but probably not if you're not a Shyamalan fan, because you'd be like, what is this nonsense that I just watched?
Interesting. Well, I have not watched anything new to tell you guys about.
Okay.
Nothing has changed on that front. I'm still watching WWE.
Yeah? How's it going?
Every Monday and Thursday episode. It's going good.
All
It's
right.
going good. I still have yet to pay for anything. So as far as a pay-per-view event. So I still miss all of that stuff. I just rely on watching the following episode on Monday Night Raw and hoping that they show me enough clips that I can piece together what happened.
Nice.
So, but yeah.
Well, I think this is good. I think we're going to call this one Stuffing and Tigers and Bears.
Still my.
I don't know. We'll let you know. Thanks for tuning in. I just want to shout out our 2 sponsors, if you want to call them that, Stello Mints and Artius Man. Stello Mints, I used a lot of these over the Thanksgiving break for family get-togethers. CBD mints that just take a little bit of that anxiety and edge off in 3 awesome flavors. Probably the most important thing about it is it's in a really discreet tin that you will feel comfortable taking anywhere. So, nobody's going to be thinking, oh, they're taking CBD supplements, which are legal anyway, but it's really stylish and really cool looking. You can throw it in your purse or in your saddlebag, and they're great. So go to stellomints.com, use promo code The Middle at checkout to get 10% off your first order. And I believe they're going to be doing a sample pack soon. So be on the lookout for that, as well as Artius Man, amazing men's grooming products for your beard upkeep and body upkeep and freshness. Go to artiusman.com. They have a bunch of sales and specials going on right now for the holidays. So check out their websites. I've been getting emails about the deals that they have on their sites. So go to artiusman.com, fill your cart with beard products, balms, oils, waxes, shampoos. They
Candles.
have really good soy-based woodwick candles worth every penny in awesome flavors. And use promo code The Middle again at checkout to get 25% off of your first order. 10% off all orders with Stello, 25% off your first order with Artius Man.
Boom.
Promo code The Middle, details below. Thanks for tuning in. And by the way, Keegan, right?
Yeah.
Keegan, we got a bunch of awesome voicemails from you. Thank you for that. We are going to figure out how to weave those into future episodes. So we appreciate all the correspondence. Catch you guys next time. I'm going to share a picture that was from Wikipedia where it's like one guy with every color in his back pocket.
Lordy.